Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan, the podcast that is a dyad in the Force. I'm Joey, and with me is Royce.
Hello, podcast.
Robin.
Hello.
And Lorelai.
Hello.
Lorelai's back. We're resurrecting her for this podcast and this podcast only.
She's been dead
Yay.
before.
Yeah, she has been every voice in this podcast.
Oh, there's going to be so much of that. Anyway, we're Krypton to Alderaan, the podcast that talks about all kinds of nerdy and pop culture things, but it's mostly Star Wars one last time. If you want to get in touch with us, you can reach out to us on Twitter at KryptonAlderaan or at kryptontoalderaan@gmail.com. This week, we're going to talk about, very briefly, The Mandalorian, the final 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, 7 and 8. And then we're going to get into the Rise of Skywalker. So spoilers abound, spoilers ahead. Also, hello everyone out there, we're back. It's been a while since we've recorded. Happy holidays, happy new year. Hope everything's going well. Let's all have a drink.
Woo!
So what I've been into in the past couple of weeks since we've recorded is I've been listening to the audiobook of Thrawn, which is... This is Star Wars, but you guys know Thrawn? He's blue, red eyes.
Star Wars?
Star Wars? Thrawn, it's very good. It's a very interesting character. It's a very imperial book. But I think mostly I wanted to bring it up because it's good, but also because in the book, when Thrawn meets Emperor Palpatine, Thrawn is from a race of aliens that's from the unknown regions. And so the Emperor is very interested in Thrawn because he wants to know more about the unknown regions, which I think we're going to talk about more later in this podcast. So it's very connected. Anyway, I'm not all the way through it yet, so I'm not sure if it will be more connected to The Rise of Skywalker, if it's more connected than I currently understand it to be, because I'm not finished. But anyway, it's very good. So the tally is Ahsoka and halfway through Thrawn. So I'm on the canon bandwagon. That's it. What do you got, Royce?
Woo! So A Quiet Place 2, Part 2 trailer came out the other day, and I'm wicked excited for that. And it's just a trailer, but it looks really good. It's a prequel and also sequel in one.
Wow.
Like in the trailer, they show a flashback before the other movie, and then they also show new stuff afterwards. And you're like, what? I'm really excited for that. That's what I'm into this week. I'm waiting for another movie to come out to cleanse my palate after all this damn Star Wars. Oh, also, I saw The Irishman on Netflix. Are you familiar?
Yes.
Gangster film about Jimmy Hoffa, based on the book I Heard You Paint Houses, which I guess is gangster for I hear you murder people. Yeah. That was a good 3 to 4 hours spent on the couch. It's kind of slow, but it's...
I've heard that it is slow.
Martin Scorsese and Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, all your classic gangster people. I really like gangster movies. Robin does not, but she let me watch it, the whole thing.
It wasn't horrible, but I did give up.
She missed right
and go
before
to
the
bed.
most pivotal scene of the movie. So spoiler alert, Jimmy Hoffa disappears in real life, right?
Yep.
And they don't know what happened to him, but it's rumored that maybe this one guy put a hit on him, and Robin leaves the room for the 1 minute of the movie that you want to see where they actually show what may have happened to Jimmy Hoffa. And she's like, oh, what happened? Did they shoot him?
Yeah, pretty much.
Good.
But if you're looking for a long haul, I would recommend it, but slow.
Very, very long haul.
Yeah, you got to really
You
want
gotta
it.
want it.
And that's what I've been into.
Great. All right, what do you got, Robin?
This week, or 3 weeks, I've been into Trover Saves the Universe, which is basically Rick and Morty in a video game with different skins on them. But it's interesting. I want to say fairly vulgar, would you say?
It's the most entertaining dialogue. The whole video game's dialogue. It's just like them talking.
But all the bad guys sound exactly the same. They all have the same voice. Because all the bad guys are clones of the big bad guy. So they all have the exact same voice. And they say great things like, oh, I'm a bad guy. I'm going to murder you now. Ah, fuck you. I'm going to murder you.
It's a very meta video game.
Yeah,
it knows it's a video game.
I already beat it, but I would play it again. It's very awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When you fail
Would
levels,
recommend.
it's like, what do you don't play a lot of platformers? So.
Why don't you try again, pro gamer? Yeah, it's great.
It's funny. We'll lend it to you.
All right. For something else that you're into, should you open that on air? Also,
Happy pre-birthday!
Yay!
Birthday.
Should I open it?
Yeah.
This week, I'm into my birthday.
Yay!
Open the present into the microphone.
Royce.
Tell us what you've won.
A giant Lego Porg, and I am very excited. This is fucking awesome. Thank you, guys.
You got it.
You're welcome.
This is super cool.
Is it life
Little
size?
face.
I think that's to scale, yeah. All right, what do you got? Lorelai into this week. She is.
This week, this month.
Right.
It's been a while. One thing I've been into is I've been reading a book, or I finished the book called Running with Sherman. Sherman is a down on his luck donkey. And it's adorable. It's by
It's
the
a
guy.
true story.
It's a true story. The guy who wrote Born to Run. Yeah, he like moves to Amish country and adopts a abused donkey and teaches it how to run donkey races, which is apparently a thing. And it's very adorable, and I recommend it.
Oh, it's running donkey races?
Yeah.
I thought they had trained the donkey to horse race.
No. You run with the donkey. You have like a lead rope attached to the
Humans
donkey.
and donkeys
the human
running as
and the
one.
donkey run together
Wow.
up the mountains, down the mountains. It's adorable.
Wow.
I recommend it.
All right.
On to the
That's
next
what we've been
thing.
into. Yeah. So to start, let's talk about The Mandalorian. Let's do like a broad overview of what we liked. What we haven't touched in the podcast yet are Chapter 7, The Reckoning, and Chapter 8, Redemption. So Chapter 7, directed again by Deborah Chow and written by Jon Favreau, and Chapter 8, directed by Taika Waititi and written by Jon Favreau. There you have it. Thoughts? So he did amass a crew, just like I said he would.
I think it was great they
And-
finally pulled together all the things we've been complaining about.
Yeah.
It makes me feel bad. Jeremy Johns had a really good review of the Mandalorian season where he was like, I was reviewing it episode by episode, kind of like we were.
Right.
And then he was complaining that every episode's its own little side tale.
Right.
And people were like, yeah, that's the way the show is.
Yeah.
But they finally put the whole crew together and make it the show that people wanted it to be. Like, bring the original story to a close.
So let's see. Chapter 7, The Reckoning. They make their way. He amasses his crew, which is comprised of every character that we've met so far that he's been friendly with. And they make their way back to the planet that they were on first when he was a bounty hunter. And we get reintroduced to the client and then Moff Gideon. So at the end of Chapter 7, stormtroopers on the bikes end up killing Queel and taking Baby Yoda and are on their way to bring Baby Yoda to Moff Gideon.
Right. And he's outside with a bunch of stormtroopers with all the main characters pinned down.
Right, pinned down in the cantina or whatever it is. You had said that he was on Conan or something and he wouldn't give anything away
Yeah.
about when he was making an appearance and whether or not he was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah. No, he's clearly a bad guy.
Well, I think so my point that I'm, I guess, trying to get to clumsily is that I think by the end of the 7th episode, it's like, okay, he's a bad guy. But at the end of the 8th episode, I was not convinced he was a bad guy. So should we just...
Now you're going too fast.
But that's what I
just
mean.
Spill it
So-
all. Let's just talk about them both. It's the same story.
Okay, let's just talk
that
about
was like
them
a
both.
2-part episode.
Yeah.
Where they culminated everything that was building, but
Right.
they chopped it up with a cliffhanger at the end when they finally got Yoda.
So I will say overall, this series was phenomenal. I loved it. I loved like every minute of it. Not as much that Tatooine episode, but these last 2 episodes were really great.
Yeah, put a nice period at the end of the whole thing.
It was very good. And so Moff Gideon just wants Baby Yoda for something. We don't know what. But at the end of the 7th episode, he's like, it means more to me than you know, or something like that. I was very curious. But anyway, what did you guys think? How did you like overall the show?
Overall, I was pleasantly surprised by the show because I definitely thought it was going to blow, but it ended up being awesome, probably mostly just because of Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
But I liked it a lot, and the last episode in particular was my favorite. I thought it had a lot of really great, mostly Baby Yoda-centered moments.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Yeah. So what I realized at the end of the show was that we're being trapped in thinking it's that like everyone is considering it the Baby Yoda show.
Yeah.
When it's not. It's the Mandalorian. I mean,
Dude,
that's
come
that's
on,
the
though.
problem.
What they set up now,
But okay, that's
He's
true.
got to find Baby Yoda's home.
Right. So
that's season 2 is going to be them on a bunch of wacky, crazy
and that's
adventures. Trying to
awesome.
find...
I love that. And also these guys like Favreau and his team now, his team of directors, get to do the thing that no one who's made a movie has been allowed to do, which is incredible.
Well,
like they have
and
a
for
TV
the
show.
first live action Star Wars, it's a hit.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
they're
like, oh,
allowed
great,
to
they
touch
failed
on
at
Yoda species, which no one has been allowed to do up until, obviously up until this point.
I wonder what George Lucas thinks because he didn't want Yoda's thing to be
George
explained.
Lucas hates everything.
Well, I wonder though. What did Lorelai think of the
Yeah, what'd you
season
think?
finale and series as a whole so far?
I thought it was great. And I mean, Baby Yoda is obviously adorable, but I think the story is compelling outside of that. The Mandalorian story is really interesting. I'm curious if it means now that, is he like the last one?
They made it seem like the other Mandalorians are dead,
yeah.
except for the armorist.
Yeah. Who might also be dead very soon. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little
I
odd.
think she'll survive.
Yeah.
But also, I think there's sects of Mandalorians across
Right.
they weren't just all hiding in that one.
Or maybe some of them relocated.
Going into Moff Gideon, the guys on the speeder bikes who took Baby Yoda get to like the rendezvous and they're like, they radio in and whoever's on the other end says Gideon just killed a bunch of his own men. And Moff Gideon's supposed to be dead, like killed because of his war crimes and stuff like that. I'm thinking that there's what I'm saying is I'm thinking there's a possibility he's not a bad guy, that he was like a spy for the rebellion or something, and that's why they didn't execute him for his war crimes. He's killing the stormtroopers because he's a good guy, and he wants Baby Yoda because he thinks the Mandalorian is a bounty hunter who kidnapped this
Precious
Royalty?
baby.
yeah precious bounty, like that could make him a lot of money to the right people or whatever. So I'm not convinced he's a bad guy. He's
Well, and they
just
left him
trying to
alive,
get,
so
he's
it's-
just trying to get Baby Yoda back, and he might think that he's like helping the situation by trying to get him away from the Mandalorian.
I don't know.
And also he has the Dark Saber at the end.
And he didn't kill them. That was like the most confusing part to me. I was like, why didn't he just like...
I think
Why
he
did
was
he
trying
leave
to,
him?
though.
Well, he could have just like blown up the whatever they were in, the cantina or whatever.
Well,
He could
they
have just
were
done, like,
charging up the
kablooey.
E-Web blaster.
Yeah. And then he was like, you have 24 hours to come out.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah,
I
he
was
gave
like,
him
why
till
don't
nightfall.
they-
And I was
Yeah.
like, you're just going to walk away?
I think that was maybe just like another Western trope that they were
I
like,
see.
Yeah.
You have until nightfall.
I'll see you at
Come in.
sunset.
It's like he's willing to kill his own stormtroopers. Why
But I
wouldn't
think
he kill?
because stormtroopers... Oh, another great scene was just them trying to shoot the thing in the...
That was silly, but I like when they give the stormtroopers dialogue and you're like, yeah, they're people. They never really got dialogue in any of the like original trilogy stuff
Yeah.
for like good dialogue. There's one scene where they're like, hey, you see the new T-16 land speeds? Those are pretty good.
Yeah. IG-11 was great. It was a good show. It was a really good show.
Oh yeah, IG-11 is the nurse droid.
Yeah.
He apologizes to Baby Yoda. I'm sorry you had to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad he's not around anymore. That was a great character.
Yeah.
They might bring another one back.
He's like the way he functions is so badass.
Yeah.
What about the R2 unit with the legs?
The gondolier droid.
That was pretty badass too.
Pretty weird.
That
Pretty
it made it look
weird.
like that other droid from or robot from Portal.
Oh, yeah. Which looked like the robot, the droid in The Force Awakens when they go to Maz Kanata's
yeah.
place. Yeah. Same style.
I thought it was cool. That was
Yeah.
a nice spin on things to be like, huh, what do you know?
So yeah, pretty great show. Pretty compelling. I'm very excited for them to
Comes back in the fall.
Go through the galaxy looking for little Yoda. But why doesn't anyone remember the Jedi?
Dude,
I mean,
that is
even
so
the
silly.
armorist, like, how does time work in the Star Wars galaxy? Like,
Well, I don't know. Like what? Think of like the Jedi as not like Christianity. Think about it like, well, I guess like it would be more similar to that, but I would say you have to think about it like a cult or something. You know what I mean? Like think of how many like random weird cults there have been.
yeah, but no, it's very
50, 60
confusing.
years
It's
ago.
very like confusingly convenient the way the Jedi exist in the Star. Like they were there for a very long time as peacekeepers, or really in reality warriors, and then the Empire destroyed them, but needed to pitch them as the enemy to the Republic
At the time.
So then everyone rallied against them. But the only way the stormtroopers were recruited because the Jedi betrayed Like, they think the Jedi betrayed the Empire, but now no one knows that the Jedi existed. So how do you keep the lie going if the enemy
We got to get
never
rid of these
existed?
guys, and also they no longer ever existed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Propaganda.
understand. It's very strange. But anyway, so
I think that's something you kind of have to just like accept, because the story wouldn't work as well if everyone already
I've
knew
accepted
about
it.
the Jedi.
We
Get
made this
over it.
podcast. Okay, so that's The Mandalorian, I guess.
Are you guys canceling Disney Plus?
No. I've got all the Clone Wars to get through. And you know what? So do both of you. And Rebels. Rise of Skywalker.
Woo!
How did everyone out there listening to this like it? It might be more divisive than The Last Jedi, I think. What do you guys think about that? What do you
That's
think
a
about
bold-
what I just said?
I'm divided by that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there probably is, because you're going to be like, I like it. And I'm going to be like, I don't really like it that much.
I loved it, and I think anyone who did not is wrong, and anyone who likes The Last Jedi is trash.
Wow.
So you flip-flop. Lorelai, okay, we have to see where everyone stands. Put your cards on the table.
I liked it a lot. I thought The Last Jedi was fine. Not the worst Star Wars movie I've ever seen.
he milks that thing and
That
then
was
drinks
disgusting.
it like a weirdo.
God,
Also,
yeah.
fish nuns, or whatever they are.
That have been there forever, upkeeping that. Okay, whatever. Well, there's no time for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but you're in.
I'm in.
You liked
I'm
it more
in.
than Last Jedi.
Yeah, I liked it more than The Last Jedi.
Would you say that you're all in now that it's all over?
I am all in.
All right, great.
What about you?
When the four of us saw it, on opening night, we were there for everyone, and I really liked it. And I had a few problems with it that I think will come up as we continue to talk. But then Lorelai and I went to see it again on New Year's, and I liked it a lot more. So it might just be one of those every time I watch it, I like it more situations, which happens to The Force Awakens in me. Like,
Yeah.
the more I watch it, the more I like it. What about you?
Well, so when we first saw it, so we all saw it twice. We saw it on the opening day and in like the last week or two. So I liked it more than Last Jedi the first time watching it. But as we were driving home, I was like finding all the things I didn't like about it, like rehashing it in the car, just being like, what about that thing? That was stupid. That was stupid. It's easy to like poke the holes in it. But I still liked it more than Last Jedi, but I'm not happy with it overall as like capping off the series.
No?
So I'm like on the fence, because the second time I saw it, it didn't bug me as much. I was able to like focus on the fun parts a little bit more. So I think you're right. Like the more you watch it, maybe the more you like it. And just like we said last podcast, it's like, you can't judge it. You only saw it 2 times. You got to be able to quote every line first.
Sure. Well, there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of opinions about it, and we are 4 of them. But man, when The Last Jedi happened, it was obviously very divisive. Probably the most divisive Star Wars movie. This one seems to be the same. There's the same sort of outlash on the internet. The only difference is that this time I like the movie. So let's go into what we didn't like. Let's go into problems we had with the movie. You want to start with that?
You just want to start bashing on it
I think we start with the negative and end with the positive. It's 2020. It's a new year. We're going to walk out of this studio with a skip in our step because we've ended it with talking about how much we liked whatever the fuck this movie was called.
What if we don't like it by the time we get through all this, though?
I think that's fair. Like, I think that's the point of the podcast. Like, everyone's reviewed it or whatever, but you've only seen it twice. And just like I was saying, on the ride home, I was like, oh, this scene and that scene. I was like, Robin, I don't really like this. And she was like, shut up. It was good. And I think it's like the more you analyze it, like probably the more you don't like it. It's like when you look in the mirror before you're trying to get out the door, you're like, oh, I don't look right today. My hair's all wacky, but whatever. Like, stop analyzing it and you'll appreciate it more. We've been through this, but we're going to analyze it on the
Let's do
podcast and
it.
see how much
That's why
we
we're
really
here.
hate this damn movie. My biggest problem is just the Palpatine being back, period. It doesn't, like, they needed a big
I have a
bad
problem
guy.
with you having a problem with that.
They needed a big bad guy, and I get that. Then they killed Snoke, and they're like, who's the bad guy now? Is it Kylo? Well, we can't kill Kylo because we want to redeem Kylo. So it was like a logistic nightmare. So you had to bring Palpatine back, and it wasn't at all a trilogy stringing event. It was just thrown in at the end. And I think, just watch the movie, they proved that was a last-minute decision, more or less, because they crammed so much stuff in. It's literally the first line of the crawl. Palpatine is back! Or the dead speak. Palpatine, he sends a message. And there's a lot of, like, just accept that Palpatine is back. He's back. He's been here the whole time. They start with the Kylo scene, so they really hammer it in, which I think is actually a positive, because if you were on the fence about Palpatine being back, they, like, rip the Band-Aid off.
Well, I think they kind of tried to slow feed that through the trailers, right? Like the
Right.
first trailer, there was just like one little Palpatine laugh or something. And it was like, is that what we think it is?
They wanted to get
And
people
then
used to it,
yeah.
for sure. But it didn't land for me. It would have been so cool if Palpatine showed up in like Last Jedi after Snoke died and he was like, my boy, you weren't serving him, it was me. And you're like, oh my God, Palpatine at the end of Last Jedi. Then that would have made like way more sense, but they didn't do that. They did it at the beginning of Rise. So you're like, so you didn't have any other ideas, huh?
I don't know. Maybe it was J.J. Abrams' idea when he introduced Rey.
Maybe that was his intention all along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or was that just like maybe
No
we should
one's-
figure out who her parents are? And like, wouldn't it be cool if it
Well,
was Palpatine
when
and
they
he
intro-
came back? And, I don't know.
When they introduced Rey, they knew that everyone would think that her parents were Skywalkers in one way or another. For 3 movies, we've been thinking that, so I wouldn't be surprised if they always had a bait and switch in mind.
I think people are going to debate this for a long time as to whether or not it was planned and like looks right through the course of the whole trilogy. There's a video that keeps getting recommended to me that says Rey is a Palpatine theory from 2 years ago. And I'm sure that person is like, told you guys. But it's like, I don't really know if it was something you figured out. Because
Well-
it wasn't really like figured out from day one. There's no way.
So I think for me, some of it works. Some of that transition works based on a couple of things that have happened in the previous films, like Rey and Kylo's Force connection. And he says it in this film. He's the grandson of Vader. She's the granddaughter of Palpatine. And they have this Force connection because they're connected in many ways.
Yeah, they're a dyad.
I think stuff like that, for me, in the movie really
You had to
works.
read into
But-
it to get that out of it.
Well, I think I really like that sort of reading into stuff, like the big picture, like, oh, if you take a step back and look at it over 3 movie lengths, it's like
Right.
they were connected in this way. And so them being connected in this way makes a lot of sense. What I don't like is them spoon feeding us
Oh, every
dialogue
line,
like
yeah.
Poe and Leia, and Poe's like, so Palpatine was behind it the whole time? And Leia's like, every minute of it.
Yeah.
All fucking day
Yeah,
long
yeah.
from the
No,
shadow. It's like you
There was a lot
don't
of
have to
spoon-fed
do that.
dialogue.
So
well, that's
that
the problem, though,
irritated
because they
me.
had to get all that out.
I don't have as much of a problem with Rey being a Palpatine again because of their connection.
But they do another lame, like Kylo. Snoke tells Kylo, your father, Han Solo from Star Wars. And then Kylo does the same thing to Rey. Your grandfather, Emperor Palpatine. He just puts it out there, like you said, the spoon feeding thing.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Yep, agreed.
Dude,
Okay,
but
go
a
ahead.
bigger problem. Sorry, I'm going to keep jumping in.
No,
we
go
just
for
have
it.
to have to do what we have to do. At some point, someone says that Luke knew like about
Rey.
Rey's parents and
Yeah.
whatnot. But then like Luke's training Rey in Last Jedi, and he mentions Emperor Palpatine, like
Mentions
the
Darth
Jedi
Sidious.
training, Vader and Sidious and whatever. And it was just weird that if he knew Rey's parents, that he wouldn't know Rey, and that never ever comes up, but he knew. And then Kyle also says that like Leia knew. Somebody says Leia knew as well.
Luke
It's
says that Leia knew.
that's the stuff that doesn't make any sense.
But they
'cause
wouldn't
you
have
just
told
throw it
her
in
because
there.
you don't want it to influence your... They're trying to train her as a force for good. If you tell her that her grandfather was a Sith,
Last
then there's two
Jedi-
things. She'll either quit like Leia did, or she'll, be evil.
Luke tells Rey that he sensed great darkness in Kylo, and he was like, I was going to go murder him, and I don't want to train him no more. And look, he turned to evil. Rey's Palpatine's granddaughter, like, probably pretty risky to train her.
He
I feel like
given
Luke,
what
but he
happened with
also-
Vader's
Luke,
son.
fucked up the Kylo situation pretty badly.
Yeah,
it's
he knew he made a
surprising that he
mistake.
didn't fuck up the Rey situation in the exact same way.
He
He was just so chill.
learned a mistake in the Kylo thing, and he tried to correct it in training Rey.
I guess. It just seems weird that he didn't mention more stuff about it. Because he says in Last Jedi, like, who are you? Like, he's like, do I know you from somewhere? He should have been like, where did you come from, Jakku? And he's like, oh, I left a little girl on Jakku once and I was looking for her parents. Are you that girl? There's something that you need to know about yourself and your parents.
He also might not have known. He might have learned later. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
It's
that
janky.
there's no
janky.
way of knowing.
No, it's bad writing.
And also, he wasn't looking for her parents. He was looking for the Wayfinder.
But he knew there was all that connective tissue that he knew about that they don't bring up. Anyway, is that all the Palpatine crap? Yeah, that's
well-
the major Palpatine stuff.
There's also the thing in the beginning of the movie, Palpatine tells Kylo to kill Rey. And then at the end, he's like, I never wanted anyone to kill you, which I guess
wanted
is
you to
fine.
kill
Like
me.
he knew what would happen. He's always been in control. So he knew what he had to say to Kylo to get Rey to that
Sure.
place later. But it's just, you know.
And then if Rey kills Palpatine, Palpatine's soul is going to go into Rey, but then Rey still kills Palpatine and nothing happens.
Right. So, well, that's something I was also going to bring up. I'm not sure nothing happens. We don't really know. I think there is the possibility that Palpatine is not dead.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying.
The Skywalker trilogy is over.
Yeah. And it's time for the Palpatine trilogy.
Oh, my God.
No, I don't know. All I'm saying is, yes, you're right, but that could mean that he's not dead. And he said he's been dead before.
Stop.
I'm just saying.
Stop.
Might not have killed him.
Are you working for Disney? Oh, my God. So the best part about The Rise of Skywalker is that all this stuff is done because they fucked it all up. It's so janky in this movie. It makes no sense. It shouldn't have been Palpatine at all. It should have just been Kylo's redemption story. He should have been like extra badass like he kind of was in the beginning. He was like killing people.
Yeah, what are those things on Mustafar that he's killing? What are those people with the big...
Mustafarians.
Sure. Like question asked and answered.
But he's like
Why are there
killing
people on
people looking for
Mustafar?
Sith stuff. He should have been becoming like the ultimate Sith guy, you know?
Yeah.
And then had to like turn back to good for some reason, but just have nothing to do with Palpatine. Or Rey kills him. Who cares? I don't know. We'll rewrite it another podcast.
I like the Palpatine stuff. What do you guys, how do you ladies feel about it?
I didn't mind it. I was. I didn't think it was that bad. My only gripe with Palpatine was that he was on that little crane machine arm. His legs were just kind of bobbling around.
I don't think he had. Did he have legs even?
I think he did.
He was
but they
missing
were
all
like,
of his little fingertips.
Yeah.
It was very creepy.
That was my only gripe with the Palpatine thing was he was on that weird crane thing. Why couldn't he have just been in his little floaty chair? Didn't he used to have a floaty chair? Or was that Yoda? Someone had a floaty chair.
I think
you're
all
thinking
of
of
the
Professor
Senate,
X.
all of the Senate had floating chairs.
Yeah. Why
But
couldn't they just give him a
also-
floaty chair?
Well, I was going to go more into Palpatine
But
living past
You're
that
okay
thing,
with
but anyway.
Palpatine back. No problems with Palpatine.
No, I'm fine with it. I
What
think
about Palpatine's relation to Rey, though?
I think it works.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I like the idea that Kylo and Rey have this connection because of who their grandfathers are. I just think they could have planted the seed a little bit earlier. Unless they knew that, like, oh, if we throw in any clues whatsoever, all the Star Wars nerds out there will guess it and it will ruin the movie.
They should have just
everything.
said her parents were really important people.
Yeah.
And never mentioned who. And it could have
Yeah.
been Luke, could have been Leia, you know, and leave that totally up to mystery.
But
and
like,
then
they
it'd be
could've,
okay, no matter who it was.
You know, had like any sort of like this movie, you don't need to see the previous two, basically. It
Not
kind
at all,
of stands
yeah.
on its own because it all of a sudden becomes them versus Palpatine, and that's the only thing that matters in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is background, like former premises that were no longer canon for Palpatine coming back, being a clone, being put in younger clones' bodies, other bodies. Like so all of
Yeah,
that
I wish
is
they kind of explained more of how he was like resurrected. I guess he says the line about the Force having like weird unnatural abilities or whatever.
yeah.
That's probably the only cool part about it is you're like, oh, he cheated death just like Sifo-Dyas or whatever.
Plagueis.
Plagueis, yeah. I don't know.
I really like Rey and Kylo's connection, and because of that, I think I'm more okay with her relation to Palpatine.
And showing that she can like resist being evil.
That and that she's his granddaughter, and that makes sense because of Rey and Kylo's connection.
Okay. Exegol looks kind of cool.
Exegol's cool.
It's kind of like, reminds me of like Jeddah, but for like the Sith,
Yeah.
you know? Like they got the statues and there's obviously like followers of the Sith. Like I would want to know more about that.
I wanna know
That would
more
have been
about that.
sick if like they explored that more and Kylo was like, oh, I could be a freaking celebrity. Like maybe I will be the Emperor.
Right.
Like there's so much that is really cool in Rise of Skywalker that, like I tweeted, I really think like they just needed another movie to slow down introducing Palpatine, hooking up Kylo and Palpatine, and Kylo being like, all right, cool, I'll be like your new bitch. That's cool. And then finally like having what actually ended up at the end of the
right.
trilogy. Because everyone rises up to kill the final order, but like you just met these guys. You don't even know who these guys are.
It's all about hope, man. Chewie and Lando go to the core worlds to recruit
So let's do it this way.
in a ship that is famous for the rebellion.
Can we, now that we bashed on it a little bit, or at least I bashed on it a lot, but let's go to a positive before we go back to another negative.
Okay.
Let's balance it out
All right.
instead of just going
Do you
all
have
negative.
Do you have a thing in mind, or should I go?
Yeah, why don't you go?
Okay, a positive. I feel like I've been positive so far, but
Okay, I'll go.
So I'd say there's lots to choose from because I really liked it. So one of the biggest positives for me that spanned the movie was the use of the Force. Like, there wasn't a question about whether they were strong in the Force or why didn't they just use the Force when given this opportunity. They took the chance in this movie to just use the Force.
There's definitely lots of Force.
Whenever they could. They're battling over the transport ship.
Lightninging, teleporting things.
Yeah. She's redirecting blasters into, like, blaster shots into bad guys. It was just really great Force use, and you didn't have to be like, well, if Vader's redirecting blaster blasts, why couldn't he just grab the plans for the Death Star using the Force? There's none of that bullshit because they used the Force in this movie.
Tons of Force.
And it was great.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like, why wouldn't you just try to grab the ship that your buddy's on with the Force? Like in any other Star Wars
Right.
movie and any
Right,
other
right.
Star Wars medium.
Well, you got to be strong enough to do it.
One of the biggest things in the Clone Wars, it's an animated show, so they should just use the Force all the time. But
Yeah, but if you
I
use it
find
too much,
myself
you have to
being
take a
like,
nap after.
It's just if you're a little 50-year-old baby Yoda. Anyway.
Could you imagine Rey's grabbing the thing? She got to take a nap.
I really like all the Force usage. I really like that was a big thing for me because every time I was like, well, why doesn't she just do this? She did it with the Force. It was great.
All right, what are some other positives?
I guess it would be a positive. I think the absolute best thing they did to this movie was Babu Frick.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best characters they've ever made.
Hey!
He doesn't even have that many lines, but it's just so good.
I Babu Freak.
Hello, I'm Babu Frick.
He's one of my oldest friends.
Yeah, so 3PO was also really great in this movie.
There's no repercussion, though, for what happened to him.
No, it was completely like, oh, you mean R2 could have just plugged into... Like, you made us
Right.
think that wouldn't work. Anyway, I thought 3PO was great, but also Babu Frick.
I thought they were both great, and especially when someone mentions Babu Frick after they wipe C-3PO, and he's like, oh, he's one of my oldest friends.
Yeah. Really, really great.
Yeah,
He was fun.
he's the best.
The new little droid.
Dio.
So cute.
Yeah.
It makes
Voiced
me...
by
No,
J.J.
thank
Abrams.
No, thank you.
I have a squeaky wheel. Squeak eliminated.
How much I love that character makes me regret everything I've said about the quirky droid sidekick on this podcast in the past. I love that droid so much.
They ground everything. We're like, oh, like you got a pet. Like the droid is just a friendly dog, you know?
But it was
Man's
like,
best
so
friend.
we've talked on the podcast about how, like, why was that droid scared of dying? Like their artificial intelligence creates this personality that's very sort of anthropomorphic,
Right.
which I really enjoy. And I think is 3PO's 3PO, and he's like very human, and none of the droids, like, they're afraid of dying and stuff like that. I have noticed all of that, but with Dio, that he was basically someone's abused pet. Like,
Right.
the first thing we learn is that he was mistreated, and that's heartbreaking. And the fact that it was heartbreaking to me, even though it's a droid, like, really sold me on something that I was like, I love that character. He's great. And then he's so friggin' polite. He's just like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think it's when Leia like passes away or whatever, and he's like sad.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And then when they get back, he's like happy or whatever.
Yeah. I
But,
agree. I like Dio.
He was great.
I like him. I liked a lot of the stuff that they did with Leia and Lando and the like passing of the torch to the newer characters. But I wish that it was like in the second movie rather than this one. You don't get to see the new characters grow enough on their own, you know?
Yeah.
At least my opinion. But I really like when they return to whatever the heck planet they're on.
Yeah.
Jungle World. They're like, we got to talk to Leia. And they're like, the general's gone. Chewie starts losing it. And that like really got to me. I was like, oh yeah, that's like, ugh. And then soon after that, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And then Poe sits down next to Leia and he's like, I don't know how you guys did it. This whole scene, I teared up both times that we saw the movie. And then Lando comes in and he's like, we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
We just had each other. And I was like, no, stop it.
Yeah.
You know, like that hit me. We're like budding adults here. You're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You
Right.
know? And that's why I wanted to see like, they kind of grow towards the end of this movie, but still in the last scene, Poe's like, oh, I guess we're going to lose the battle. I don't know. Lando still saves him at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Poe doesn't really become a leader really on his own, right? Lando saves him in the end. But I love that like passing of the torch kind of thing.
At the end, they set up that thing with Lando and what's her name? The woman from the like
stormtrooper defector.
Yeah.
Well, let's find out,
I know.
baby.
Well, I was really worried that
creepy.
he was going to be like, I am your father. And he didn't do that.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
God.
because he's like, where are you from?
And
I
she's
was
like-
waiting for her to be like, Bespin or something. And be
Yeah.
like, oh,
Wait, I'm black? You're black?
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, what I don't want is for Disney Plus to make a Lando and defected stormtrooper show. Like Gianna, whatever.
Gianna.
I don't want them to make that show about them bouncing around the galaxy looking for her home.
Yeah, that's enough stuff we liked. What do we
All
not
right.
like again?
You got another thing on your list?
Dude, Knights of Ren? Knights of...
Nothing. Yeah. But there is
Master of the Knights of Ren? Are they cool or not? Because they don't do anything.
there's a comic book out right now that's
And now they're all
getting into
murdered.
that, but you got to read the extracurricular stuff. They didn't use force powers or anything like that, but
They're chasing after the main characters, but they never do anything to the main characters.
no, they
except
only
Kylo.
fight Kylo, yeah.
Oh, in that scene with Chewie and he gets captured, like he kind of gets captured by like the First Order / Knights of Ren, maybe? But they don't show that, and I wish they showed that because Chewie doesn't go down without a fight. Every time Chewie's ever been captured, he's always been like, screw you, man. When Han's getting put into carbonite, he's like, rah! And they like have to like quell him. And I wish there was a scene where Chewie was like punching some Sith troopers or something.
Yeah.
But he just gets captured and like, man, how'd you get captured? Like him fighting the Knights of Ren, that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I don't know, sidestep. But anyway, Knights of Ren didn't really do much.
Nope.
And
they
now
sure
they're dead.
didn't.
No thoughts?
They still looked cool, though.
They did look cool.
And
Yeah,
they
they're
were
cool toys.
They were pretty, like, terrifying. Like, if you were in a dark alley and turned around and the Knights of Ren were there, you'd definitely be like, oh, I'm going to die now. Okay.
I expected them to be force wielders.
They should
Yeah.
have played them up with Kylo. Like I said, him becoming like a really badass Sith. Rey's becoming like a really badass Jedi, but like Kylo's just kind of like skating along, just looking for trinkets. He's on like a geocaching mission.
With his buddies. The Knights of Ren.
Oh, look, a wayfinder. Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, geocaching?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that the Empire and the Sith are always looking for artifacts.
Yes.
They're always looking for, like, it's part of Jedi Fallen Order.
Let's destroy this entire religion, but then collect a bunch of their stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah, so there's a comic book. You should read it. Everyone listening, go to your local comic
Dude,
book
but
store and
like-
pick up. No, you gotta read the stuff.
I know that the bonus content, like I don't want DLC for the movie though. Snoke says that they're supposed to be badass.
Yeah.
Kylo leads the Knights of Ren. That's supposed to make Kylo cool. And then they don't do anything. They don't even have like one battle. Like the Knights of Ren could have been Snoke's guards or something and turned on Kylo in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah, that would have made more sense.
I've got another thing.
Does anyone?
Me too.
Do you have things?
Go, Lorelai.
Okay. Did not like
Lorelai.
the kiss at the end.
No.
No.
Disagree.
Why does every like female lead have to end up making out with someone at the end
Dude,
of
Rey
a
is an
series?
independent woman.
She is.
She don't need...
But they have this
Kylo.
connection.
So it doesn't have to be a romantic connection.
Yeah, dude.
I think
Everyone's
annoying.
connected in the Force.
It's like,
not like that.
why does it have to be that way?
I
Because you
get-
have
I
to
get what you're
add a little bit of romance. I don't know.
At
It's
least
a bunch
he
of
died
bullshit.
afterwards.
I know. Thank God. I don't know. I actually was sad that he died, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I the
Robin?
only one who spent this entire trilogy going, so they're in love with each other, right?
Well,
Well,
they
it's certainly
really
implied.
did. They really, yeah,
It's like you said, they're connected.
yeah. And in the Last Jedi, they sort of touch on a romantic connection and stuff like that.
The Kylo and Rey dyad ships, I hate that word for it, but like, their connection is super cool. But yeah, like,
Why
he's
does
bad-
it have
he's
to
bad
be
guy.
love?
Dude,
It could
wait,
just
Rey,
be,
Rey,
like-
remember when he killed Han? You know, the guy that was like being a bud to you. You know,
Vader killed everyone, and Luke was still like,
he didn't give him a kiss.
no, but he still was like believed in him being good and becoming redeemed.
Well, I don't know. I'm with you. It was kind of unnecessary. He should have just been like there in the moment, and Rey could have been like, "You saved me," and he's like, "You did the same for me," and then knocked
Yeah.
out. You know.
You're right.
Why do they need to be in love? And then
I
they're
don't
not in love.
know.
And now if that's Rey
It's
kisses
just like
him, right?
stupid, like
gonna go to a Finn
gender
thing?
norms. Like, oh, if they had both been grandsons, they probably wouldn't have made them be in love. But because they were like, oh, we're going to have this cool, strong female lead character. She's going to be a badass Jedi. And we're also going to have this guy, Kylo. Obviously, they have to kiss by the end.
Well,
it was just like,
she's going to be
fucked
tortured forever now because her boyfriend's dead.
Yeah.
Do you want to see them live happily ever after? Were you okay with them dying?
I wanted them to make little Jedi babies.
How would
thought-
Kylo be? Man, that'd be so weird to see Kylo continue afterwards, though.
I would have almost liked it.
Yes.
Even if they didn't do the kiss and Rey died, but then Kylo became the leader of the rebellion. That's what I really wanted.
How would anyone stand
Robin and
behind
I are
him?
on the same page.
I was like,
gotta-
he's
I
gonna
would've liked
crawl
that
up.
too.
Yeah, I was like, he's gonna crawl up out of this crevice. He's gonna see that she's dead. He's not gonna be able to save her, and that he's already redeemed, and he's going to do everything now for her because she gave up her life for this.
and he's
like
a Skywalker.
He's like Ben Linus after Lost, and he's like, I can't go into the church just yet.
Yeah.
He's not ready to be part of the team, but he's there.
As much as I love Rey and I loved her journey, and this brought something very new to Star Wars, a strong female lead, and she was really great. I mean, she's a really great character. But if she had died in that moment and her death pushed Kylo more into redemption, I think that would have been very powerful. Like if he tried to save her and couldn't,
They're gonna
and then
need me.
after he could have been redeemed, and he would have been the last Skywalker. I thought that would have been, maybe it'll be an alternate ending. But I'm also happy Rey lived. I mean, that's great, and they got their moments.
Who's gonna believe he turned back to good though? Rey's gonna be like, no, and Kylo was there, and he helped me kill Palpatine. Yeah, sure he did. No, like I gave him a lightsaber through the Force. Like he wasn't in the same room. Yeah, sure he did.
That was cool. I liked that part.
Yeah, we're gonna get in. That's gonna be one of my things that I liked.
Are we on things we didn't like or liked?
Did you
I have
said
more
the thing-
details
brought up the
about that.
kiss.
Mostly
Okay.
the kiss, but also like the fact that there's a big leap between like, oh, now I can heal this snake thing in this cave to like, oh, I can just put my life into another.
I can start a stopped heart.
Yeah. And also, what are the rules when like, usually when a Jedi dies, their body just like disappears, right? And like for some reason, Leia stuck around for a really long time and then disappeared when Kylo died. And Rey also, her body was just like laying there.
You're a true Star Wars fan.
No, but that's how.
The details.
But you
when do
can-
they disappear? I need to know.
Yeah.
But that's
it's
like critical to the thing. It's like they've
She was
never
waiting
been
for
able
Kylo,
to try
clearly.
to bring someone back to life
Yeah.
because their body just fizzles away.
That didn't happen to Vader though, and he still became a Force ghost. Didn't they have to burn him?
Well, I was thinking about that. They burn his suit. We don't know if the body's inside the suit.
That's
The
true.
body could have disappeared.
Everybody knows, even if it's in the suit, the suit stays there.
Yeah.
But don't you think the suit would have just like a little?
Flattened
No,
a little
it's
bit.
like
like the
very
blows.
rigid suit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if Kylo didn't have the helmet? He had like Vader's leg because it was robot leg. That wouldn't have burned up in the fire. Maybe you would think that would have been like solid steel.
It's not as cool though.
Oh my God.
was
There was
so
so much
cool.
about the mask. There was. Oh God. I can't. I'm not going to give that. We're not going to talk about that.
We don't have to get into everything today.
Did
The
you want to bring up
Force-
something you
No,
liked?
I want to talk about what you said, which is a good point, but also if the Force wanted Rey to survive, her body would have been left there for Kylo to heal. That's why, like, Palpatine was able to understand how everything was going to work, and there was a path. There was a path in the Force that Palpatine saw and knew how to manipulate. And if the Force has that kind of power, Rey is supposed to survive. So her body needs to stay there so that Kylo can put his life force into her.
Dude, the healing thing, I love it for Baby Yoda. It's too much of a get out of jail free card though. Because it's like you said, like, so every battle ever, you're like, I'm just going to heal you. You're good, bro.
No, because you only have you have a limited.
give too much
She
of it
gave
away.
some of her life force to that whatever.
Well, maybe
3PO
that's what
called.
killed Ben because it was the first time he ever did it.
Yeah,
He gave
But
all of his life to
He
save Rey.
did. He gave all of his life force, but he was also just got thrown down. His back was broken. His leg was broken.
Falling
he was,
doesn't mean anything in Star Wars.
He barely made it to her, so he was already on his way
They
out.
both had already
as
had
I
half their
fell,
life.
now
slurped
you
out
shall
anyway.
fall.
Palpatine took their essence from them.
Their
So-
dyad, that was.
You're ragging on that, which makes me think you don't like it, but I really like it. So are we on things we don't like or things we do like? Do you have more?
So the Sith fleet, every Star Destroyer can blow up a planet, right?
Yep. Why send
haven't-
one?
I guess. Yeah, why just
Why
send
only
them all
send one?
right
Send
out?
them all fucking. Why leave them there for them to be destroyed?
But here's what I'm thinking. Like, in our own history of humanity, it's like, if you get a big gun, I'm going to get a big gun. Oh, we both have big guns. Now we got an understanding. You want to bring a gun to the gunfight? I'm going to bring a Death Star to the Death Star fight. Why don't the rebels, maybe they don't have the resources, but like, clearly you can put on a Star Destroyer at some point. So like the technology is getting smaller and smaller. It's shrunken Death Star tech. They say it Last Jedi. Why don't you guys go to Endor, take the Death Star weapon, and now you guys have a Death Star, and you can actually fight the people that are fighting you with the same technology. It's kind of crazy that they don't also develop their own like nuclear weapons. And then everyone understands we can blow each other up. So we don't blow each other up because we know that it would be the end of the galaxy. It just doesn't make sense to me that obviously for the movie, don't think about it. But you would think they'd want to have their own weapons. Be like, this time we have the Death Star. We're going to blow up Exegol. No.
Yeah. Then there's the whole like, we're as bad as them thing. That's a good question.
You would think they'd
don't
want
have an
that
answer.
technology, though, or be like trying to figure it out.
Yeah. But also the same guys are selling weapons to the good guys and the bad guys. So
So there's clearly a bunch
you
of people that
should
just
just
don't
be
care.
able to buy that from
Yeah.
like, that was the whole point of The Last Jedi.
Right.
And Benicio del Toro, who
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
a throwaway character.
Don't join.
Here, I'll go with something that I didn't understand at first, but then came up with an answer for. But the movie didn't provide an answer, but you just have to come up with it on your own. Where does that TIE fighter come from?
Also, somebody said TIE fighters don't do hyperspace.
Yeah, they need the ring. Well, but maybe that's a different TIE fighter. I mean, there's I think in
No,
Resistance,
it can't be. It came out of like the ocean moon Endor or something.
Well, we don't know.
They don't explain it, so we can't argue about it.
But
you
also
would think
the
it was from the Death
stormtroopers-
Star.
Well, yeah, but the stormtroopers who defected got there somehow. They could have like been stealing. That's how I explained it away. Like the stormtroopers
they
could
had
have
a
been
ship.
stealing ships. I mean, she said like, Poe's like, do you have spare parts? And she's like, we have this thing that we came here in that we use for parts. And but
All right, I
they
guess that
could have been
explains it.
like getting. They could have been like infiltrating ships and stuff
Right.
and getting them there. I don't know.
Yeah, but they say
the first time we
clearly in A
saw
New
it-
Hope, that's a short range fighter. It couldn't got into this deep of space on its
Yeah,
own.
and they need those rings. But there's also, I think, in Resistance and in Rebels, there's new TIE fighters that can do stuff like that. But the first time you see the movie, you're like, where? What? How did he get that?
Yeah, I wish there was a scene of him just like picking up a TIE fighter or something and then jumping in it.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Did you like everyone in the room? Did everyone in the room like or dislike Luke's sort of redemption finally pulls the X-Wing out of the water?
I thought you were going to go with the lightsaber
He
thing.
couldn't do it on Dagobah, but it's come full circle. He's like, yeah, I did it. You happy, Yoda?
Probably fan service. But a cool moment because they play the music and it sounds cool.
Yeah, and he's like, I finally did it. It's fun. Yes, no, it's kind of.
I
It's
didn't
just
even
kind
think
of.
about that. I just
yeah.
was like, you're pulling your ship out of the water, okay?
Yeah, no, because he couldn't do it
Not a
before.
good place to keep it.
It's
just
not.
saying.
How long was the ship underwater? And also, it still works now?
Yeah, also he took
That
one of the
stuff doesn't
wings to
matter.
make his door.
That could have been a different ship.
That was his other X-Wing.
That's one of my takeaways from
Oh.
this movie is it could have been a different ship.
Dude, so related, another thing I liked, another moment that, man, I don't even like know why, but another moment where I teared up in the movie when she goes to Ahch-To and like lands and she's burning everything. And she's like, I want nothing to do with this. And maybe because I relate to that, where I'll melt down and be like, it's done, it's over, man. I'm making this rash decision right now. And you're like, you're not thinking clearly. You're just like being kind of emotional.
You know how many times we've had to put this studio back together?
But she was so over it. And Luke's like, nah, man, you're just getting started.
Yeah.
But she exiles herself just like Luke did. And she's like, this is a safe decision. I can see why Luke did this. I got to do this. Force is bad. It's no good. We got to get rid of this Force stuff.
Yep.
And that hit me pretty hard. I like that. But then she's immediately off that planet. So that's kind of short-lived. I was like, oh, that'd be a cool place to just leave it. She's like a hermit. Kylo takes over. Cool with that too.
Bad guys win. Classic Star Wars.
That would have been an interesting end to Last Jedi if she's like, no, I'm staying on the island. And Luke is like, you can't. And she's like, watch me.
So your takeaway from the film is that
I'm still
the
working
Last
on my
Jedi
fan
should have
fiction.
ended with, yeah, okay. Gotcha.
There's a lot I think that you could take from Rise, put in Last Jedi, and make everything work better. I don't know exactly how it works yet. We'll have to have it on a future podcast. But I did like that they called that back and that he caught the lightsaber.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun. I don't care if what it means.
Well, and he said a Jedi's weapon should be more respected, which I think also sort of is a little bit of a redemption thing because the last time he held it, he threw it over the cliff.
He's like, I didn't
so
care
he's
about
like
this.
grown. He realizes that he made a mistake, and then like 2 seconds later, he says he made a mistake.
Agreed. And there's an awesome sound effect when he catches it.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
You
That
don't
sounds
see
great.
it, but there's a thwip or
Yeah.
something in
There's
there
a
when
big
you're like,
thud.
whoa.
Movie theater shaking.
Something weird with ghosts that can interact with physical stuff.
Oh, you ever see the movie Ghost? It takes a lot of practice. All right, I'm going to bring up something.
Go for it.
Something that I've been right about. Something that this movie said I was right about.
Joey's favorite part of the show. Something I was right about.
I told you.
When we saw The Force Awakens, when The Force Awakens ended, I was like, Finn is Force sensitive.
Yeah.
To some degree, he's Force sensitive. He wielded the light. There's evidence in that movie of it. Much less so in The Last Jedi. But in this movie, there's so many, in my opinion, it's 100% true as of the end of The Rise of Skywalker. There's so much that happens that
There's lots of moments that he's like, I'm sensing something.
yeah, he's got a feeling. He senses Rey. I mean, at the end, he senses Rey's death, and he like
Yeah.
falls over on the Falcon.
Classic Force sense.
Yeah. So
Did you want him
You
to
guys-
tell Rey? Because he never did, but they kind of set that up.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. In my head canon, he tells Rey after, and she trains him.
So can you not wield a lightsaber unless you're at least somewhat force sensitive?
Han uses it. Maybe he's Force sensitive. I don't know.
Well, he wielded the lightsaber, but he stood his ground.
No one on the podcast can see that.
He stood his
Doesn't
ground
matter.
against Kylo Ren in The Force Awakens. He
Right.
was able to, at least
Yeah, he
for
battled.
a little bit, hold his ground
He's
against
also a
Kylo
trained
Ren.
soldier.
But there's also a scene in the beginning when he snaps out of like being a stormtrooper that I got the vibe of him like The Force Awakens. And we
Right.
think it's about Rey, but obviously Finn wakes up, and it always sort of meant to me like, yes, he was part of the awakening that Snoke is talking about in that movie. He wakes
Right.
up. He was taken as a kid and brainwashed, but when they're on whatever that planet is in the beginning,
Of Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Jakku.
you're right. BB-8 finds Rey. So they're on Jakku, and he doesn't, he breaks free, whatever. Anyway,
Right.
it seemed like he was force sensitive then, and man, I think that's just a really good plot line. Do you think that's what he was going to tell Rey, or do you think he was going to tell her that he loves her? Or both?
Probably both. That also pisses me off.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind, that's why I had to ask you, because I was like, what the hell did he want to tell Rey? They didn't wrap that up. Not mad about that. And you're like, he's Force sensitive, dude. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. But when we were watching the film, does he love her? Is that where this is going? That
Like,
would have
if
been
you're
lame.
about to die, I don't think you'd be like, Ray, I have to tell you something. I'm force sensitive. And then they both die. It's like,
I never
whatever.
told you.
I never told you. It's
Yeah.
like, no, that's not what you say when you're about to die.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't need to know that before she dies. She would already know. I don't know. That's how the Force works, right? She would know.
Not
How come
always.
she doesn't know? Okay.
I would know.
I thought he was going to either tell her that he loved her or that she was a Palpatine because he said he knew and Leia knew. And I thought in my mind, that's what he was kind of alluding to the whole movie is he's like, I know this thing no one else knows except Leia. And
That's a good point.
someone's
Didn't
got
think
to
about
tell
that.
her. And I thought that's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
What news to get right before you're about to die, though? Like,
By the way, you're evil. Bye. That's what I thought.
yeah.
Probably better left unsaid. And now that we're talking about it, makes sense. They train after the movie's over.
Yeah, I would love that. Just like with Luke and Leia, we get the flashback in this movie, which is another thing I'm just going to throw out real quick that I loved. That flashback with Luke and Leia training.
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being like, here's Leia's lightsaber.
Also something that was taken out of canon and now brought back into canon. What else you got?
Man, I have so much I want to complain about. They say Red 5. This is a quickie. Oh, that's Red 5. Red 5 is in the fight, everybody. But Red 5 in they claim Red 5 is the ship in Rise. Red 5 is in Rogue One. That dude blows up. Luke becomes Red 5 in A New Hope. But I would assume that's just like a call sign. Like you get my badge number now, but you're not. It's not the same ship. But they said it was the ship. So the ships must like give a beacon out, another tracking fob that I am Red 5, the ship Red 5. You
Yeah,
get
you-
my license plates now.
You might plug
I
your
thought that
call
was
sign
weird.
into the computer and the,
I just thought
and
that
the
was
ship
weird.
just pops up on
That's
everybody's
Red
map
5
like Red
ships.
5 because the Force would have wanted Rey's body to stay there.
That was like a fan servicey thing though. They should have just been like, that's Luke's ship. It
Yeah.
didn't need to be like Red 5 is a call sign. It's like saying that's, whatever it is. It's your license plate number. That's how I saw that anyway. right before they do the final battle, Poe is giving a semi-inspirational speech. Finn is interrupting the semi-inspirational speech with his own inspirational speech. Occasionally, Maz Kanata is also interrupting it. And there's a really cool montage going on at the same time, which I really just wish they left as a montage with awesome music, which is what they do in like A New Hope right before they do the final trench run. They show everyone getting the ships ready, and it's cool, and there's awesome music, and then they do the trench run. In Rise of Skywalker, though, they're like, we are the spark that will ignite the First Order and burn them down. And Finn's like, yeah, and this is for everybody in the galaxy. And it's totally ripping off Independence Day. And they're like, we will not go quietly into the night. We celebrate our Life Day. And I thought that was so freaking lame. Like, just show him getting ready for the fight. And he literally says, like, we're taking the fight to them now. And like, get out of here with this dumb dialogue.
That's very overused.
Oh my God. Like, just
series of words.
But the montage was really cool.
Yeah.
If you just delete the dialogue track for that, Poe should have been like, everyone get to your ships, you know what to do. And then, play the music, show the montage. That speech has been done better in other movies, in my opinion. But they spoofed the wrong Independence Day movie at the end of Independence Day Resurgence.
We're taking the fight to
them.
Yeah.
That's all I could think when Finn said that. And I was like, oh, that's bad dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm not good with the English language, but that's not good dialogue. Sorry. The montage was great, though.
Yeah, except that, like, everyone's throwing stuff to everybody. It's like, why is your duffel bag on my ship?
But that's good. You see a lot of human elements there when you're like, oh, that's the guy that's flying that ship. And then later you can see them get blown up or save somebody else.
Yeah.
I love that part of New Hope, and they were clearly spoofing that a little bit. Montage was good. Writing was not. I'm sorry. I know it's hard to write a movie. I've never written a movie, but come on.
Yep, thoughts? Why is his duffel bag on his ship?
Wait, let's bring this into the whole final battle thing, because we didn't talk about the space battle at all.
Yeah, we could get into something that I like.
What about the whole space battle? Yeah? No?
When Poe's apologizing, because they're all getting destroyed, and Lando shows up with everybody, and it just pans, and you see their fleet, like their new fleet. Like,
right. Ship porn.
It worked. I thought that was amazing. My heart swelled.
The galaxy does care.
It did exactly what I think they wanted it to do to me, which was that heart swell. Like, you see all those ships, and it's just sort of an incredible scene, and the music plays, and they're ships I recognize, and they're there to save the day. I thought it was great.
Do you like all the ships showing up?
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
Do you like all the ships showing up?
So fun.
You
it
don't.
was a good heart swell moment. I agree.
It just was weird because they said no one believed in them in the last movie, and Poe's like, nobody came. Add one more line of dialogue, and Lando would be like, well, you should have had me talk to them or something. Like, Lando should have been like, you didn't do it right. I'll do it for you. Because obviously Lando, people listened to him for some reason.
Well,
it's just weird. Everybody came out of the woodwork.
I
But
think
they sent a distress call. Why didn't you care then? We just blew up Starkiller Base, dudes. Why aren't we rallying now? Why wasn't everyone rallying after Starkiller Base blew up?
well, because they had
But
just
they'll
blown
rally
up
now that the
Republic.
Emperor's back.
At that point, the First Order just destroyed the Republic, so everybody was scared.
I guess that there's a lot of
But
stuff
also,
going on.
I think it was Robin who said, when we were talking about this same thing, Robin said that maybe the signal was blocked from Crate. Did you say that?
I don't know.
Somebody said that.
I don't think I did.
Like, when they sent the
Doesn't sound like
distress
me.
signal from Crate, maybe it was blocked or intercepted.
That would have been
or
great if they
something.
were like, we couldn't get the signal out.
Yeah, they might not have known. Or Crate might be. I mean, they specifically said Lando was going to the core worlds, and
Right.
Lando was a politician, so he might have pull there.
Well, I believe that Lando would get people stoked
Then
to
just
fight.
6 rebels on Crate being like, come help us. Everybody would be like, maybe not. But then you send Lando, who's this rebellion fighter, politician. You know, he's well known and he's a good guy.
If it wasn't Lando and it was Rose, I would be real ticked. But it makes sense that Lando would be like, hey, come on to the fight, everybody. One
And they
last
took the
time."
Falcon, which is
Right.
like in The Force Awakens, they say this is the Millennium Falcon and it's a well-known ship for the rebellion and stuff.
Oh, they hate that ship.
Yeah. Well, also not great dialogue. I'm done with that.
And then when they're winning the fight at the end, Finn has another line of dialogue where he goes, people are rising up all over the galaxy. How do
It's
you
force sensitive.
freaking know? You're in the
one
middle of a
the-
battle, dude.
He knows. He feels it.
Those are also things you just don't have to say. Like, it's pretty obvious
Just
when like
pan
5
out.
million ships show up. It's like, oh, the people, they rose up.
We're not just winning here.
Well, I
we're
think
winning
what-
It's like,
everywhere.
see, don't tell. You know?
Yes.
A little more subtle.
Well, he
Maybe for kids, though, that makes more
Yeah,
sense. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's force
Bad
sensitive.
dialogue,
He
bad
knew
dialogue.
that it was happening.
Listen, if you're force sensitive, keep it to yourself.
Here's something. Antennas are very susceptible to spaceship blasts.
Yeah.
Why do you need to be on there? Why does a
Right.
person
Maybe
need
it
to
has
blow
a
up
shield
this?
or something.
Well, and they're like, we're going to blow up the antenna. Oh, no, they're going to transfer the signal to the ship. Okay, we'll blow up that ship. Aren't they just going to keep...
Yeah, why
Also,
didn't they
who's in all
transfer-
Can you
those-
Maybe
email
there was
me the
only
code?
one other signal.
I don't understand why. Okay, they need it because the ships are flying blind, I guess. But also,
You can get there with the Wayfinder, or if you're following...
But they're too
Oh,
big
an
and they're
X-Wing.
too close
well,
to
crates,
the thing. And
crates making too much interference, so they can't tell. But who's in all of those
all the
ships?
All the
They
Sith,
come out of the ground.
Sith people.
Thought there were only two.
Sith followers, apparently. Apparently they have a lot of
They could just live underground. Well, whatever.
followers.
they have been for
They're the
whole
Outer Rim,
trilogy.
dude. No one
They've
knows
been-
about it, dude. Did you read that comic book where they explained it all?
Shut up. I just like. I didn't understand why they needed to be
Spat out
on
his
the
drink.
thing to
No, it was weird that
blow up the antenna.
he had a million followers. Like you said, who's running these ships? Who's building them? Now they have 50 Death
well,
Stars.
were they also the things that were like
They like combined with the
cloning?
First
They
Order
were
though,
like
too.
doing the clone stuff in the beginning of the movie.
Has to be all the same people.
Yeah. All right.
Dude, there was a coliseum of people. There's a whole Sith like world that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Were they real though? Because once
It was-
Think it was an illusion?
Palpatine died, they all just kind of like,
Well, they got smushed.
well, they were getting smushed, but I thought they were also just maybe just like disappeared.
They didn't really zoom. Who knows? You're right.
Yeah, you never saw.
Palpatine's
You just
like
saw hoods.
bolstering.
So
Bunch of hoods.
each
Smoking
time we
mirrors.
saw it, I thought that maybe they were projections. There's weird visual stuff in the crowd that made me think that they might have like been projected there. I loved her lightsaber.
Oh,
I
at
love the
end,
lightsaber
yeah,
that she
was
made out of
Oh, yeah.
out of her staff.
Yeah, that's kind of cool that it's her staff.
Yeah.
And then she buries the other lightsabers.
And because there's like significant lore associated with that. Like she won, some amount of time passed, but she went somewhere to find her crystal, which is this big important thing in a Jedi's career. Like the crystal calls to you, you hear this music and it draws you to your crystal. And I think that's just great. And I love that she like behind the scenes went and did all that and made her own lightsaber, I think is really great. And it's a yellow lightsaber, which I really also like. Did you all like her lightsaber?
Oh, cool.
Just kind of buried.
Could be really
Skywalker
handy to have an
lightsabers.
extra lightsaber around, though.
You're
think
going
she'd
to
wanna
be
keep-
teaching kids.
Yeah, you give one away, right?
I mean, they're supposed to make their own and stuff, but
Every other
Whatever.
Jedi, your father would have wanted you to have this. Leia would have wanted you to have this.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets somebody else's lightsaber. Kylo's like, give that to
Well,
me.
Luke
That's
makes
mine.
his own eventually.
Grievous is like, this will make a great one in my collection.
he wasn't a Jedi.
Whatever. I was really hoping Rey was going to do I thought they were setting it up, giving her the other lightsaber, that she was going to do like a double-handed thing, but they didn't do that. But it came in handy to give to Kylo.
I also love that scene. As I've said, I love their connection. When she hands him the lightsaber, first of all, the whole thing, when he's fighting the Knights of Ren and he's starting to get beat and she's like,
She can tell. She knows he's coming and she's
and
just
she
stalling for
like,
time.
hands it to him. First of all, I thought that was amazing.
Oops.
And then his reaction when the Knights of Ren
Yeah.
are taken aback and he's like, and then I just thought I shrugged. Like I did his exact reaction, listeners.
I love that part too.
I loved all of that.
Yeah, I just kind of pictured him being like, all right.
Yeah.
I thought
that
he was
really
like,
great.
man, you guys would have had me when I just had the blaster, but now I got a lightsaber, so you guys are fucked.
So
I thought, wait, was
Yeah,
real quick.
go ahead.
She nods right before that, like they force connect.
And then she's like, they
She's
like
like-
make their plan. She's like,
She nods.
okay.
I thought that was on the first time watching it anyway, not knowing like what was going to happen next. I thought Rey was like, Kylo, I'm going to be the bad guy now. You have to be the good
Me too.
guy.
Me too.
And I was like, that's a badass Star Wars moment.
Yep.
That she was going to kill Palpatine and become evil and sit on the throne and be like, I'm the motherfucking Empress.
Yep.
And then Kylo would be like, all right, I guess this is how it is now.
So I thought that was going to happen. And then halfway through the movie, he's like, you wanted to take my hand. Why didn't you? And he offered her his hand when he was evil. And so then she was going to become evil and he was going to approach her as good. And he was going to offer her hand as the good guy. And she was going to take it. And they were going to like defeat her inner evil Palpatine together. And it would have been like, yeah, I didn't want it. I wanted to take Ben's hand, and then she takes Ben's hand, and
This again would have been a good Last Jedi ending. For her to be like, I'm evil now. And you're like, what? Rey's evil and Kylo might be the good guy?
Yeah.
And then you redeem Rey in Rise of Skywalker and find out she was a Skywalker all along. No, you're right. There's some cool like play they could have done there.
yeah, I thought that's what.
But
was
handing the
gonna happen.
lightsaber off is equally as cool because
I thought that was really
they
great.
played up the physical objects traveling through the Force somehow a lot.
Yeah.
Where are you? I don't know where you are.
Yep.
Oh, that's my Darth Vader mask. You're on my ship. I'm coming over.
Ring, ring. One thing that I really wanted to happen in the Ahsoka book, it gets to be a point where Ahsoka has to rejoin the fight and take on one of the Inquisitors. And the Inquisitors have those double-bladed red lightsabers. And so Ahsoka's going through the galaxy. She needs to make new lightsabers, so she's looking for a kyber crystal. And she's called by the crystals in the Inquisitor's lightsaber. And she defeats him and heals his crystals and winds up with 2 white lightsabers. And when Kylo is talking to Han and says, I know what I have to do, but I don't have the strength, I really wanted him, as turning good, to heal his lightsaber and then have the white sword. Now, her being able to hand him the lightsaber was cool. Like, that wouldn't have happened but I really wanted him to, like, why'd you throw
Throws
that
his
away,
lightsaber
man? You
Dude,
could have
'cause
just...
his lightsaber was evil, man. It was so like. Could you
But-
imagine he heals the crystal and it's still all like.
Well, no,
blue?
it's like that because the
Or white or
crystal's
whatever.
because the crystal's broken.
That's
but then you
because
heal
he's
it.
got it like souped up. He's got like D batteries in it when it needs AAA.
Either way, I think that would have been cool and a little bit of like Force lore that's kind of neat. But that's me.
Dude, we
Anyway,
didn't even
I
talk
wanted that
about
to happen.
Han.
Yeah, he says, "I know." It's another heartfelt moment.
Did anyone think he looked way
Weird.
younger?
Did look
They
weird.
they
Yeah.
CG'd him a little bit.
They
It looked
CG'd
odd.
Leia too. She looked weird. She looked weird.
I thought Han looked weirder because the scene was so brightly lit that you're like,
yeah,
Like if you compare that Han to like Force Awakens Han, he looks
I think they
like 10
wanted
years
him
younger.
to be looking younger than that though.
like looking young and healthy. And
Yeah.
like
How Kylo would remember him.
yeah.
I guess it makes sense.
I thought it was weird that he was a memory because I was like, is he a fucking Force ghost? What the hell's
He
going
wasn't all
on?
blue and glowy.
Yeah, he wasn't see through.
I
He
was
wasn't
like,
no,
wow.
so he wasn't a ghost. He was a memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what he said.
He was Kylo's conscience. I really like that scene as well.
Yeah, I haven't come to terms with that one. It was just
I
weird.
liked it.
So weird things that are happening in Star Wars in this new trilogy, and maybe the stories, I'm not sure. That memory thing has never been done before. No one's ever seen a memory. Not that you can't do it, but it's like a new thing. New things scare people, and specifically Star Wars fans,
I thought you were going to say, and specifically me.
and also me. Sure. But then also like slow-mo, they did like a bunch of montages. It starts with a montage in this scene. They don't start in space. Like they're in space, but they immediately go to the planet. Come on, it's Star Wars, start in space. But
It's Mustafar.
there's a montage in the beginning. There's lots of slow-mo, and those are like obviously like cinematography things that they just do. Maybe not the memory thing, but like all those other things. They're like weird, only new trilogy stuff. Definitely makes the newer trilogy stand apart production-wise from other Star Warses, but also kind of weirds me out a little bit. Like memories, you can see the memories. That works if it's like a beautiful mind or something, or Shutter Island, and you're supposed to be like, oh, what's going on? What's real? People see memories in Star Wars now, though.
Yeah, I think I would
Or
have liked it better
flashbacks
had it
and
been
whatever.
Leia. It could have been. I mean, she had just died, which I still don't really understand. But
Well, they wanted
had
the
it-
redemption.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Had
killed
to be
his
his
father,
dad.
and she
Yeah.
said, like Ray says, it haunts you.
I guess.
What if it was just Han's voice, though?
I mean, we were just seeing what's going on in Kylo's head. It's
Or
a Jiminy
Luke.
Cricket moment.
No, I get it. It took me out of it because you had never seen a memory in Star Wars. Like, it's not a thing where people do flashbacks. Like, if it was Lost and there's a flashback, you're like, that's what they do. It's Lost, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I like
thought it was
I do like the scene, but
Yeah.
just because it's a memory makes it a little weird for me where I start thinking about like, wait, is that something Star Wars does? I can't turn that off for
Yeah.
some reason. But next time there's a memory, it'll be fine.
Uh-huh. It's something Star Wars does now.
They do that now.
They do that now?
They
So
could
stuff
fly
like that
now?
I did not like.
You didn't like that part?
Not when all three of them say it.
They fly now.
A lot of good action sequences, though. Like, I like when Finn throws the rope and yells to Poe and they whip that stormtrooper around. I liked.
I liked when she's like, BB-8, not now. And he's like, all right, fuck you. Clink, clink.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
great.
they really needed
Yeah.
to hammer home never underestimate a droid. Oh, speaking of droids, another heartbreaking scene that's like generations long is R2-D2 at Leia's bedside when she dies.
Oh,
It's like
yeah.
that was her mom's droid, and
I
it's
like
like
that
served
he
the
stayed
family.
with her instead of going out to do stuff with the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that for a while, where like they were taking BB-8 on certain missions and like not R2-D2, but they took C-3PO. And we're like, why aren't C-3PO and R2-D2 together? But that made sense to keep her with Leia.
Yeah. And R2-D2 or C-3PO kind of. R2-D2 needs to be there for the fighters, and C-3PO has to be where the translator is going to be needed. And BB-8's just a ball, so it doesn't matter. The end.
The end.
We haven't touched on the space horses.
They were definitely just regular horses with
Tusks.
stuff on them. It was
But I
pretty
mean,
funny.
on the Star, like Royce
Oh, yeah.
was saying, we're going to bring blasters to a Death Star fight. They brought
Well,
space
no, it
horses
works.
to a.
Because they were like, jam their speeders.
Yeah.
They're not using speeders. They're
Yeah.
using space horses.
So that's a new
jam
thing.
their space horses.
They don't have a navy. It's just people, dude. So yeah, I mean, so's a navy, but that's fine.
I do like those lines of dialogue. I wish that was like more subtly done rather than the whole like people are rising up everywhere, because that one line is cool.
Yeah. And so you had talked previously about like introducing new characters at the last minute you didn't like, but you were like in more in terms of more like bringing Palpatine back. So I didn't mind the Palpatine stuff so much, but now they brought this Allegiant General in.
He's cool, though.
He was a cool character, but we'd never seen him before. It's just like he's like I served you in the. It's like asking questions at the end that no need to be asked. Like, oh, this guy. What does that mean? Does
Yeah.
that mean he served? Like, does
We're
that
only-
mean he's served him in the Clone Wars?
been
or
around,
the
yeah.
Imperial.
Gotta
like,
read the
takeover,
comic
or
book.
it's not the same. You can't just say it because I say
That's
it.
how it works, though. You're like, you want to know what's up with that guy, and
I
you have
don't,
to
but-
download the content.
I don't want to know what's up with him, but I also don't think they should have asked that question in the 11th hour.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with Rise of Skywalker. So we're not like we touched on like the overall kind of problems like early on, or at least I did with my problems, and that is the thing with this movie is there's too many disconnected things that they're like, plink, put that in there, plink, put
I
that
see.
in there.
I don't think
plink,
well,
put
we
that in
we
there.
disagree as
And
to whether
instead
they're
of keeping
actually
it simple,
disconnected.
it's not a simple movie.
But in my mind, but for me personally, certain things that you brought up can connect. I can, to myself, explain them connecting, like
I
I've
do
tried
wanna
to
know
do
that
here
guy.
today. But that guy is just like thrown in.
He's
Be like,
definitely
I
thrown in.
Served you in the old wars, I'll serve you in this one. And then like he died. I just don't understand why introduce that character and then at the end of the movie have him say that line and ask the question like, who is this guy? And then kill him, and this is the end of the
Oh, yeah, he's
trilogy.
gone now. You're right. Yeah.
So just weird. But maybe he is in stuff. I don't know. Maybe he's in stuff like the books or the comic books, and I just have to get there. I'm underway on the canon, consuming all the canon.
Surprise question.
Time.
No, so like,
shaking her head.
was it a satisfying conclusion to not only the trilogy but the Skywalker saga? No, but then we have to figure out where it lies in. Is that your
Ranking?
secret question? Yeah, where it ranks.
All right. So, are you satisfied, and where would you rank it, Robin?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Loved it.
I did. I would probably put it 5 out of 9. I'm not counting the stories because those.
No, out of the
Those don't count.
Skywalker
Yeah.
saga. Yeah.
I would put it number 5. So the original trilogy, Force Awakens, and then Rise of Skywalker. But I don't really have many complaints about it. I thought it was great.
What do you think, Lorelai?
I was also very satisfied. I really enjoyed it. Certainly better than all of the prequels.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. I don't know where it ranks after that.
that's fair.
I mean, I think when you say I would watch it over and over, that's kind of like a big thing because watching the prequels once, you're just like, whoa, glad that's over.
I saw someone tweet, "The Rise of Skywalker makes me appreciate the prequels."
Oh, that's rough.
That was this
I'm
person's
very
review.
wrong.
All right, what do you got, Royce?
My opinion is still in motion, but it's definitely above Last Jedi for me. It's not above the original trilogy. So at minimum,
You're also
it's
at 5.
But yeah, Force Awakens definitely above this for me. But I like the prequels. That's the X factor for me is like, I would probably rather watch the prequels than Last Jedi. I turned Last Jedi off the last time I tried watching it. And I did try watching it before Rise of Skywalker. I just didn't finish it because I was too busy. And I got further in it at that watch than I did the previous time. but I have not watched The Last Jedi full through. I feel like I would have to put like Last Jedi below the other prequel stuff. Where Rise falls amongst the prequels, dude, I like the prequels more than Rise, I think.
Wow.
So was it your tweet I saw?
Well, dude, okay, wait. I didn't answer the satisfied thing. I'm not satisfied with the ending of Rise. It's supposed to cap off these 3 trilogies. Ridiculous concept. I wish they didn't even say that. The best thing about Rise ending the Skywalker trilogy is that now we can just look forward to new Star Wars movies that's not clouded with all this extra baggage and BS. And we can just have The Mandalorian, which is in the universe, but it's like its totally own thing and calls back to other stuff, but is not relying on Palpatine, a 40-fucking-year-old character that wasn't in the first 2 movies of the trilogy. Doesn't make any sense to me.
He was there in spirit.
I know he was the voices the whole time,
That's what I'm saying.
but not a satisfying ending for me. So that's why I cannot put it above the prequels at this moment in time, because the prequels, whether you like them or not, because the prequels are awkward with a lot of the dialogue and like romance stuff, but the prequels have a much better start to finish story because it was created by a visionary who wanted to tell his story. I can't deal with the hate. I'm gonna trash the studio again.
I respectfully disagree with what you're saying. No, go ahead. All right.
I would say I agree. I agree with Rice.
But George Lucas wanted to tell his story, right? And those movies are not the best execution of it, but it is a more complete story, in my opinion, rather than Force Awakens to Last Jedi to Rise. Those are disconnected movies. They do not belong together.
It's not a trilogy. It's just 3 individually, like, pretty good movies.
Yeah, like on their own, they're like okay movies for sure. They're not like my
They're fun
least
to watch.
favorite movies. Yeah, and the action is cool and whatever. But as
there's
a
no
complete
plot.
story, they were not written to be a whole story. Whereas the prequels, Anakin trains to be a Jedi, turns to be a bad guy. Boom. It works.
Boom, boom.
And that was how the whole story was the whole time, in George Lucas's mind anyway. And even though they get hate, that story is good. These sequels, it's just hodgepodge. And it was made in the last, 6 years, where the prequels took like 9 years, I think. I think it was 3 years in between each. There was more time to develop them. It was like from a creative, like madman, you know? That's why it's weird, but it's like his thing. Makes a lot more sense to me. Rise of Skywalker, the second to worst of the Skywalker trilogy as of January 2020 to me. I'd rather watch the prequels.
I don't agree with that part of what Rice said.
I'm going to just go out
the analysis, but not the opinion. How about that?
All right. Very diplomatic.
and I've only seen it twice. It's going to change, but I can't put it above that because it's not.
Sure.
I don't want to watch those 3 movies together. You can watch the 3 prequels together and be like, I get it.
Yeah.
After you
I
fall
would say
asleep,
there's a little bit
like
of
14 times.
There's a little
but
bit of
yes.
disconnect in some of the prequel stuff, but I understand what you're saying.
Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yeah, that's fine.
What about you, Joe?
The satisfied question is the hard one, I think. I liked the movie. I would rank it highly, I think, at this point. Like you said, Royce, I need to see it a few more times and get everything sort of nailed down. But as of now, it's like Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker, I think, are up there for me at the same level. But the satisfied question's a hard one. I don't necessarily like that I can say I would have liked it better if they had done this, which I can say in quite a few moments of this movie. So that takes away from the as far as it being satisfying.
So it's still high on the
satisfying
list, but it loses points for style.
It's high on the list, but I'm not necessarily satisfied with it as the end of this trilogy.
Sure, I'll buy that.
I just think that there's sort of a lot that they touched on in previous movies that they could have flourished in this one.
Well, because it wasn't planned through and through. You have to plan it, man.
Sure.
I've made enough stuff to realize, like, when you just make it up, you're like, oh, that didn't like. You have to let it marinate and figure it out, especially if it's a story, because a story's got to have a beginning and a middle and end that makes sense. But each one of those beginning, middles, and ends has a beginning and middle and end, and they do those one at a time.
Right.
The
Mandalorian, they had a storyboard. The overall story, they knew what it was going to be, and different directors made each chapter.
Right.
So they should have planned out the end of the Skywalker saga trilogy in a storyboard, and then even if a new director took it over,
Stick to the story.
The umbrella is there.
They didn't know how it was going to end when they wrote the beginning
Right.
of it, which is the problem with it. It's just fundamentals. But they made a ton of money, so that was the point. The point wasn't to make a good Star Wars movie. Sorry.
lot of money.
It was never the point.
Sell a bunch of toys.
That was George Lucas's idea, though. If you ask him about the prequels, he'd be like, dude, we did so much like CG stuff. It's awesome. He's like probably pretty proud of that. The point was for him to try and make a good movie, even though they weren't good. But this was not to make good movies. This was to make money. They bought it for $4 billion. It's got to make money. Now, I want to bring up, and hopefully you guys can expand, because, dude, you have to grade it with a curve because it's wicked hard to end things, especially that they wanted to end the Skywalker saga or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a ridiculous concept that you have to tie this into all these other movies that were never one unit. It's not like the last 10 years of Marvel and the Avengers. That's relatively succinct. This is 40 years of lots of different people in different eras of production, different fandoms. It's crazy to tie all that together. So when you look at like a TV show, it's like constantly changing and whatnot over several years, and like maybe different people come in or in and out. Lost, obvious example, J.J. Abrams. Strong in the beginning, not really the greatest ending, but an ending nonetheless. And you have to derive a lot of your love for it. Prison Break, great show, but ending is dumb. None of you guys watched it, but it's dumb.
I didn't watch the
but
ending.
it's a fun show.
J.J. Abrams left Lost, didn't he?
No, so it's not his fault. But he started a cool thing in the beginning.
Like you said before, he starts a lot of stuff.
He started it, somebody else ended it, but there was no ending to Lost. They had to make it up. Same thing with Prison Break and any TV show. Dexter, another really good show. Ending totally tarnishes the rest of the series. Breaking Bad, on the other hand, very great ending. I don't know if they knew how that was going to end, but that had a very satisfying ending. And not a lot of things have satisfying endings. It's just fucking hard to do.
When I think about this trilogy, I don't even think about Last Jedi. I'm like, oh, Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. Aside from the horrible moments in it and also Porgs, I can't really pull anything from The Last Jedi that I'm like, that was really crucial to this trilogy and this story. You could take it out and be like, just kidding, Rise of Skywalker is actually the second movie in the trilogy.
Yeah, it could be.
Last Jedi is no longer canon, and we're going to make a new
Right.
ending to this.
Yeah.
And they could have a little bit of Lando and still have Chewie and whatever, but they can make it more focused
Right.
on the three characters, the new main characters.
No, it's like Joey was saying. It's like, oh, I could like rewrite this better. I have a better idea. You don't want to say that. I love when things make sense from start to finish. Maybe in a TV show, you can write off certain episodes, but a movie is like, you shouldn't be able to delete that much of a story and be like, that's okay. Don't watch that movie.
No, you could literally be like, boop, and now we're putting another one right here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just hard to end stuff, which I said last time, or we said last time, and they didn't end it that great. But there is a history of other film and TV franchises not really ending that great. So I don't know. I was wondering if like you guys had other things in mind that you thought it related to, because it's just not fair to be like, they didn't do a good enough job.
Almost
It's just
every
hard.
trilogy I can think of.
Even like Lord of the Rings, though?
Okay, now Lord of the Rings is an exception. The Hobbit is a good example, I think. Well, maybe just not being good from the start, but
They stretched a small thing into a big thing.
yeah. Let's see.
I'm not like a huge Hunger Games person, but they broke that last movie up into 2 movies.
Yeah,
And that's kind of
maybe
always...
none of those were good.
But that's always another like kind of like, we didn't really know what to do, but we knew we could make more money, so we just kind of stretched it out and didn't finish it really that great.
I mean, historically, comic book movies. I mean, let's go through them. You know, Tim Burton Batman 89, 1 and 2 are great. 3, Tim Burton didn't do, but it's terrible. Superman, the original Superman, 1 and 2 are good. 3rd one's terrible.
Yeah.
X-Men, Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Iron Man, all of them.
It's hard to get
Every
to 3.
single one.
Yeah.
3 is the problem. So, I mean, that's where I go. There's also a fair amount of examples where the second of the trilogy is the bad one, and the third one, I don't know. I like, but I guess I never considered whether it was satisfying or not. But like, this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I was going to say Back to the Future, but 2's good. So that's another one where when you get to 3, it's
At least they
kinda
tie
iffy,
in together pretty well.
But I kind of like
film to film.
3. 3, Back to the Future 3 is fun, but Indiana Jones 2 is not good, and 3 is really good. And
Right. So yeah, it doesn't apply to everything.
we haven't cracked a code here. We're not like, oh, this is
There's
a
no rule to
universal rule. Yeah, but
Uh,
just things that kind of relate to this. But
So what if they just didn't say this was the end of the Skywalker saga? Not that they have to make more movies. So sometimes what happens with comic book movies or other like similar epic franchises is like they make a couple and then they pause and then maybe they reboot it or they tell another story, but they don't like obliterate the previous thing. I think they screwed up by saying that this was going to end the episode films.
Yeah, they wanted to amp it up. And
like that makes it sound
backfired.
cool, but that if it was planned and they were like, dude, this is going to be so good, but it wasn't so good. It was okay. So they should have just not said anything and you could end it however you want. And then you could be like, yo, are they going to train Finn? Well, no, this story is done, bro. Like, I don't want them to ever bring back Rey, Poe, Finn. Like, Skywalker story is dead. They were in the Skywalker story.
Yep.
So
we were told that that's the end.
if there's an episode 10, I'm sorry, that day, like, that's the day that Simpsons died kind of thing to me. Like, it's no longer the thing anymore that you fell in love with as, at least as us, or most of us as a child. I don't know. They should have left it open-ended. Do you think that would make it any different to you? Well, you already liked it.
I liked it. I don't think you can leave something like that open-ended because then people are just going to nitpick it and be like, okay, so like, are you making more? If you don't say it's the last one, people are going to forever be like, when are you making another Skywalker film, huh?
I think
Luke,
that's what
Leia?
it was after like
What's
Revenge of the
happening?
Sith, though. Like you filled in the gaps of the prequels and then it was done for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Had Carrie Fisher died by the time they said this was the end?
I think so.
I couldn't remember if maybe it was just like, oh, by the way, Luke and Leia are dead. Kylo is also going to die. It's the end of the actual Skywalker bloodline. And that's kind of what they mean by the end of the Skywalker saga. And they're going to have more movies with Rey and Poe and Finn and the
Palpatine.
young crew. And then maybe, you know, in 6 movies, they'll be like, surprise, it was Palpatine the whole time. You know, like, or they'll bring back, you know.
I think that would make sense if they did that. But at the same time, they also ended the film with her being like, I'm Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
You can't come back, Rey Skywalker.
Yeah.
This was the end of your trilogy.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was also called The Rise of Skywalker as the end
The
of
rise and also the sitting
end.
down of...
Remember when we said the third one should have been The Phantom Menace? I said it. When I said the third of the original trilogy should have been called The Phantom Menace, and the first one should have been called Revenge of the Sith, I said that on the podcast.
Okay.
This one should have been The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
The names are dumb. Do we have anything else to say?
Dude, I have all night. No, we definitely beat it. It's tough, dude. I think like you have to leave it with this asterisk at the end. It's like, it's just too difficult of a task.
I think, yeah, the main takeaway is now it's over and they can do new stuff.
Yes.
Which I think everyone at Disney...
This is the best thing for Star Wars.
I think it's a great thing for Star Wars. I think also everyone at Disney is like...
Right. Glad that's over.
Yeah,
Growing
exactly.
pains.
I think that they are like, we are glad that's over. Now we're not beholden to this. First of all, the fans are terrible.
Yeah.
Second of all, we're not beholden to this story. We can go out and make new stuff. And if the fans of that don't like it, then they won't be here anymore. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a big sigh of relief for the public who liked the movie, for the public who didn't like the movie, and for the people who made the movie. It's like sort of a win-win. It's like, you didn't like it, it's over.
Yep.
If you did like it, you liked it. And if you're the people who made it, you can be done with it and make something new.
And maybe they're also just glad to not be beholden to the trilogy format. I think that's more so
I
the
think they said
problem
that.
that they were having is that they're
3 at a
like
time.
3 at a time. So like worked when, you know, George Lucas had a vision for each film, but it didn't work when that vision didn't exist.
If you
just
can do
like what
one
you
at a
said.
time and be like,
So,
we
like-
introduced this character, now let's explore their bad guys, you know, their foe
Yeah.
or whatever, and then we'll do
That's
this,
like
and then
almost all of the Marvel movies you can watch without having seen any
Dude,
of the others. And
Rise of
they're still-
Skywalker should have been an Avenger. You know what I mean?
Basically.
Yeah.
You know, and there's like, you know, maybe one, like Endgame, you'd be pretty confused.
Yeah,
But
that's
other than
really
that,
the only one,
it's the
though.
only one.
Right.
And it's called Endgame. It's the end.
It should be
Not
called,
the
you gotta
Rise
watch all the others
game.
first.
Exactly.
You gotta watch all the others.
Or like just one other one and you'll kind of get the gist of what's going on.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
they're
Yeah.
not good at making, you know.
I
And all
think-
the other big, big movie series are all based off of books. It's like Lord of the Rings worked because they already knew exactly what they were going to have to do.
Yeah, there's a certain level of like creative interpretation of the original material. But yeah, I think Kathleen Kennedy has said, somebody, I think I'm fairly certain it was her, said this is it for trilogies in Star Wars.
You have to do it that way. It's fine. Unless somebody has a great idea, but like you let them have the idea first and then you can do it.
No, they're going to put it in the Marvel movie
Same
format.
Yeah.
If they want to do an interconnected thing, it's going to be separate but interconnected and then one big event, which would be really great, I think, for a story like The Old Republic.
Maybe it's better.
You have this, and then the culmination is just Jedi and Sith.
Right, lots of
Kaboom.
stories converging.
Yeah.
It's maybe nice that they did one trilogy to just be like, remember Star Wars? Remember? Okay, but we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to do it differently.
Yeah.
At least you got one trilogy. They tried it. It's not a good format unless you're a visionary.
I don't want to make too much for you to edit. I do think there's more to say. I'd like to, pick it up more, or we'll see it again and have more to say, blah, blah, blah. But yeah.
Part 2 coming soon.
Don't say part 2.
So next episode, we'll just have a segment that's how are you currently feeling about Star Wars?
Let's make
take
that
our
a
Star Wars
recurring
temperature.
segment. So I came up with a new surprise question. New surprise question time, because we asked the other ones before. Are you still a Star Wars fan? Are we going to buy lightsabers? Are we going to buy Legos? Are we going to read the comic books? Are we going to read the books? Are we still going to be fans? Okay.
There's plenty of stuff in the new movie that we like. We mentioned shit that we like in the new movies. I'm still a Star Wars fan.
So, yeah, but I mean, you could either not like it and be like, well, screw this. I'm done being a fan of this thing that it's the only thing that I'm a fan of that I hate.
Yes.
Or you could be like, I'm burnt out on Star Wars and stuff like that. But
I'm still a fan.
all right, great.
I'm probably more of a fan.
Yeah.
Because they had a couple characters that I really liked. And I think that really did a lot.
Hey!
Yeah. Hey, it's a podcast.
You?
I'm a fan. Mm-hmm. Probably more of a fan than I was before.
Great.
But that's also because we talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to, so that's nice.
The spark is
Welcome.
burning. All right, we're all still Star Wars fans. What a great way to
What
end
a
this
relief.
podcast.
Disney, if you're listening, don't worry. We got your back.
People are rising up all over the galaxy. They're still Star Wars fans.
I think that there are a lot that are not.
Okay.
Oh, so you want to bring us home?
Yeah. Well, this was fun. What a podcast. This is probably the longest podcast that we've done.
Yeah.
And it needed to be that.
Yeah.
If you made it this far, we really appreciate you listening to our silly opinions. Let us know what you think about the podcast and our opinions on Twitter at Krypton Alderaan. Send us an email, krypton2alderaan@gmail.com. Leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Twitter, Stitcher, Twi'lek, whatever. The funny thing is, it's weird when you record this, but you're listening to us right now. So wherever it is, go to the section you can review and give a 5-star rating or whatever rating you want to give and leave some thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And that's the end of the show.
I've been Joey.
I've been Royce.
I've been Robin.
I've been Lorelai.
And we've been
Krypton to Alderaan.
I guess I'll save.
No, delete the whole thing. Let's start over.
Oh my God.